Recording in progress. Okay. All right. Thanks for coming, everybody. Lillian and I are trying to take over this one small job of Renee McCracken amongst all of her, 10 million jobs that she's been doing for ASC for many years, just by helping to be a resource for questions for other managers, because as you guys probably know, this is rather complicated, the system that we have for scheduling games and multiple different websites you have to figure out how to use. So hopefully this will be helpful. And even if questions come up later, feel free to ask us anything. And if there are specific questions at the end of this meeting, we can go through, like on a website, exactly what it looks like. That might be helpful. All right, let's see if I can advance. So here's the agenda for tonight. I already sent out the manager manual, which is pretty long and detailed and complicated, but hopefully will be a good resource if there are questions that come up later. We're going to talk about the registration process, NorCal and what that is, what GotSport is, how you schedule fields in SportLinks, referees, what you need to bring with you for game day, and other logistical items. So the registration process is multi-level. You guys all have access to TeamSnap, I imagine, already. And the player has to work with Yen Chi, the registrar, to do the online registration, give their proof of birth and their photo, and then they can get added to TeamSnap. There are also going to be staff members on your TeamSnap, so that'll be you guys as managers, your coach, and then your professional trainer if it's a different person than your coach. And all of us have to do our background check and the trainings that you probably already did that Yen Chi asked you to do, like Safe Sport. And we all have to have all that training done in order to be allowed onto the fields for games. So US Club Soccer is the overarching organization. All of the players and staff members, including us, have to have a pass card in order to be eligible to participate in the games. So Yen Chi is the assistant registrar, and she purchases those cards, and they're valid for a year between July 1st and July 31st. So this is spring season, so our passes from the fall are still active. And you're supposed to have them with you for basically everything you attend, NorCal games, State Cup, and tournaments. There's also medical release forms that the players are supposed to fill out and give to the club at tryouts. And then eventually those will be given back to you once the teams are formed. Each manager will get like a packet with all of those medical release forms that you're supposed to have with you at every game, just in case. And so they live in my husband is the coach of our team, in his soccer bag, so that wherever he goes, those are always there. There's a link in this slide deck that I'll send out to that form, but I believe it was also just sent out last night with the tryout registration link. And then the roster is generated from the list of all of the players. And there are specific conventions for how the teams are named, which is a little bit confusing, but you want to make sure that when you're signing up for a tournament or looking for your team name on SportLinks, that it sort of follows this convention. So it's always Alameda SC for Soccer Club Islanders, and then the number of the birth year, followed by G or B for girl or boy, and then the color of the team. The US club roster will show you in GotSport if you want to print it or have access to it in paper form. You might need it for tournaments, but there's ways to print it from GotSport. And the US club roster, you can have up to 26 players on it. And then that roster is actually, I believe, used to generate the NorCal roster. They should be the same most of the time. This is not advancing. Here we go, NorCal. So we have, for NorCal, we have fall, winter, spring, and summer leagues, although I believe most of us are doing fall and spring. for U10, I believe, and younger, we're called Region 3-4. Is that different, Lillian? For the older kids, it's not Region 3-4, it's
Region
Premier?
3-4 across the board.
Oh, it is, okay.
Yes, and then there's a west and an east, even subdivided after that, and we're typically in the west, but it kind of depends how many teams there are and how they have to split it up. So sometimes they combine gold and silver, sometimes they combine just the regions. Instead of having east and west, they'll just do one region, and it's really just to make sure that, if there are 16 teams, then they'll split into 8, but there's only, say 8 teams that sign up that season, then they would create just the one region rather than splitting that up. But yes, we are Region 3 and 4.
And so right now, what's happening with NorCal, you guys probably all know that Gotsport was broken for a while, and it just came back online yesterday. What's happening right now is that all of the teams are being flighted, and they're double checking to make sure that your team is flighted in the appropriate division. So if you haven't already checked that, they want all of us to check is it on Gotsport, or there's a link to it in the email today. Yeah. You go in and you check to make sure that you're in the right place, where you think you are. You might have tried to register for bronze, but you got put in silver. So you want to make sure that you're in the place that your team is expecting to be, so that your team has a good experience. You don't necessarily want to be flying up too high if you're, a lower division. And then, so NorCal does all of their registration and management through Gotsport, which is now working again. There are, as you're going along in your season, I would send this out to my team, like the NorCal website, with a link to our specific division, so they could see as we played all the games, like what the records were and how we were doing. And you can find that on the NorCal website. There's also a handbook with NorCal rules. And so we just got an email today about the brackets, and then hopefully the schedules will come out in another day or two. So I guess this was my question. U9, U10 is called Regional League 3-4, and the older ones I thought were called Youth Premier League, but maybe that's different.
It could be. So we're just moving up to 11v11 next season. As far as we are right now, I mean, I thought we were still 3-4, but so yes, you're right. We could probably be moved to Youth Premier League. So excuse me if I gave you the wrong information.
I think it's just there's more younger teams, right? So I think that's why they group them like a region, and then Youth Premier is probably drawing from a bigger area.
Because we're U11 now, and we are 3-4. We are still 3-4.
Okay.
So I'll double check that.
Well, we can ask Renee.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is the age group matrix, just for reference later. So birth year, and then what age group you're playing, and then the number of players per side, as well as number of referees that are required. So for, it looks like U12 and under, you only need 1 referee. So that's 9v9 and 7v7, only 1 center ref is required. And then the 11v11 teams should have 3 refs. And you can see how the game length of time goes up as the kids get older. The roster size will change based on 7v7. The max roster size is 14, 9v9 is 16, and then 11v11 will be 18. So State Cup for younger ages already happened in the fall. You guys probably already experienced this. And I believe it's ongoing for the whole year for the older teams for 11v11 and up. That's seeded for elimination round in the spring. I'm just going to skip this a little bit. You guys probably remember that there's a difference between regional leagues and State Cup in that for State Cup rosters, the players are cup tied, meaning that they can only play for one team in that age group year. So a 2013 boy can only play on one team, whereas you can draw from younger players from 2014 because they're not playing in that year. But for regional league, you can borrow players from the same year. So my son's on 2013 white. If we didn't have enough players for a particular game, we could borrow somebody from red or from blue and just update our roster for that one game. And that's a little bit more complicated for State Cup, where you have to plan a little farther in advance. Tournaments. So teams usually do 2 to 3 per year. There's a lot of play dates that are coming up. If you guys haven't heard about those, NorCal sent out an email advertising them. Those are sort of fun because you do 3 games all in one day. It's all arranged by NorCal, and they're all over the Bay Area. So there's one April 2nd or 3rd, I believe, that we're signed up for in San Ramon.
That
but
was
it's
on the 3rd.
Yeah, it's a great way to get a lot of games just in one day without committing to a whole tournament, and they're usually a little cheaper.
They're also shorter, and it's all in one day rather than tournaments where you have to wait for other teams and see where you place, and then whether or not you have a Sunday game. So you know what you're going to get in one day, and there's 3 games, and they're shorter games, usually about 20 minutes each, and then you just kind of go through the day. And it is much cheaper, as Renee said. So we're probably going to do 2 play dates and then a tournament in spring for our team.
Yeah, we're doing 1 tournament and 1 play date, I believe, this spring. You pay for these out of your team funds that are allotted once a year in August. So if you don't already know, your balance, whoever was managing your team fund is supposed to be logging on a stipend tracking sheet, what money has been spent, so you know how much you have left over and if you have enough money to pay for tournaments. I am told that if your team, is really interested in doing another tournament, but they don't have enough money, that you could apply to get that covered by ASC. So just ask if that's something that you're interested in and you don't have enough money, because they're getting more expensive, the tournaments, I'm realizing, as the years go by.
Yeah, they are. They're up to like $800 now, and
Yeah,
the play dates are about, I think, $250, $295, something like that.
Yeah, they're much cheaper. It's sort of fun if the team travels and goes to spend a night in a hotel, but that's not required if it doesn't work out for your team. So listings for tournaments, you can actually search on Got Soccer, although I've found that not all of them that we've applied for are advertised on there. We have just sort of like talked to other coaches and done Google searches to find them, but there are several in sort of like the early spring. There's one Breakers Fall Cup, Breakers Spring Cup, March 11th and 12th is coming up if your team is interested. But there's a variety that are available. And sometimes if a lot of teams from this particular club sign up together, they'll give you a discount. I believe they're all using GotSport for management now. I think this is an older slide, because when you sign up for the play date or the tournament, usually you have to actually do it through GotSport to pay the money. And you'll need your US club roster, your player passes, and your medical forms when you check in for the event. All right. Are you guys already a little bit familiar with GotSport or not yet? Yes, Heather is. Yes.
Do you guys have logins? I guess is the better question.
Do you have a login? Okay. I will, maybe after this slide, I'll just sort of go through mine just to show you guys, but you will be able to view your schedule. So that's where NorCal will release your spring schedule, hopefully in a couple of days. And then on the side, there'll be a chat feature, and that's going to be super important to communicate with teams about scheduling. This is where you can do rostering. This is where you will also assign times and fields after you get confirmation from Jack London that you are assigned one. And that's where you can also print the game cards from GotSport. So this is where you're going to be doing most of your activities. And then that's where you report the game scores. So let me see, I'm going to unshare and then try to reshare my screen with a picture of GotSport. All right, does that show up now?
Yes.
Okay, So this is my dashboard. And I spend most of the time, I go to team management, and then matches. And that right now it has all the matches from the last couple of years, actually, 2021 through.
You can go up and then you can filter if you want to
2022.
see certain seasons. Yeah, like the team and then the event.
Let's do fall. So when you first get your assignments for your schedule, you'll have the date assigned, the time will be blank, the venue will be blank. It'll tell you which team is home and away. And then you'll have this little chat thing on the side. So very first thing I do when I get this schedule is, number one, take a look at our calendar and make sure it doesn't conflict with like spring break or, you know, your tournament that you may be signed up for. And then I go to each chat. When you're the home team, you're responsible for scheduling. And then type in, you know, we plan to request a morning game, you know, 10 or 11. Is that okay with you? And you're supposed to, you know, give them maybe 24 hours to respond to you. Sometimes they'll write back and say, oh, that doesn't work for me. You know, can we reschedule this game or can you do an afternoon? But all of this has to be documented within the chat in GotSport, because if there's ever a conflict or, you know, NorCal needs to resolve it somehow, they will come look at this chat for proof that that who actually was confirming the details, right?
The other thing, sorry, Renee.
Yeah, go ahead.
The other thing is this is not mandatory. It's just because there will be teams that when you play away games, they will just schedule the games and
yeah, like this one, the first one here, you can see nobody chatted anything. They just scheduled it without asking us.
Yeah, so it's a courtesy, and I do that too. It's a courtesy to reach out when you're the home team and kind of ask, you know, is it okay? Because as the home team, you're responsible for scheduling the field and the game time. So when not all away teams will be as courteous and ask you if you prefer a certain time. They may just go in and put in a certain time. They're different coaches, and a lot of these coaches manage like several teams a day, so they may not give you a preference. They may just say, you know, this is what we have, take it or leave it, kind of thing. And you can't always go back and say, this day doesn't work for us, this time doesn't work for us, can we change it to an afternoon game? And sometimes, you know, so that's where the communication happens, is when you're coordinating the game time and game day. And sometimes you have to change the game date as well. So,
and one super important thing to know is, if you change something, if you change the location, the time, it does not automatically notify the other team. So we had a situation where something was scheduled and then the other team updated it and completely moved the time by like 6 hours and never told us. And we showed up at 9 and nobody was there. And I was like, and then I looked on GotSport and they had like literally just changed it to a different time, and they thought that we would get notified, but that's not the way it works. So if you do make a change, please chat them and tell them about it. And if they don't respond, try again or call them or whatever, because there's usually phone numbers up there as well.
Yeah, there are. And yes, and it is always courteous to change. And also what they'll do, I always check the day before game day to make sure everything is the way that I expect it. Sometimes the location will change, and like Renee said, the time will change. So it's always good just to check either the night before or even the morning before, when you have to go in to print game cards anyway. So that's something just to keep in mind.
While we're here, I'll just show you how to print the game card. So under the chat icon, you click these 3 little dots, and then you can print the match card from there. It'll export it to a sheet, which then populates the rosters and all of the coaches' info and things like that. You have to bring one for home game,
right?
But it's probably a good idea to also bring it for an away, just in case if somebody forgets.
Yes, I agree. Bring one either way, but you must have it for home games, and that goes to the ref, and the ref takes that and makes sure that the players that are listed on the roster are actually at the game. and then they'll check the player cards as well. So, and we did have an instance actually where the other team didn't have the coach's card, and it held up the entire game, and we almost canceled the game. But he was able to pull up the game card on his phone, and the ref accepted that. But typically they want a hard copy of all of the player cards, coaches cards, manager cards.
And I was told when Renee McCracken trained me that we take the game card back and keep it in our records if you're the home team. Sometimes the ref will try to walk away with it, however. So it's never come up that I've needed to produce it later, although I guess theoretically it could if there was some discrepancy in the score or something like that, and somebody needed to look at it for proof. So probably good to have that. In the same 3 dots is also where you'll report the score under match stats. And then as the home team, you're supposed to put in the score. I've had other teams that don't do that. And so if they don't do it within 24 hours, I'll go in and add the score as the away person. That also is a place where you can print or you can make changes to the away match day roster. Like if you have your standard roster, but on that particular day, you're borrowing another player, or not everyone's going to be there, you can click on this and add club pass players just for this particular game, or check off who might be attending. And then that will print your match card with those players. That's just for regional league. You don't want to do that for your state cup. Okay.
Is that under that same little 3 dots? Is that under this? Okay.
Exactly. So when you get your schedule populated, and maybe you chat with people, and as the home team, you don't have to worry about the away games, but as the home team, go check in with them and say, hey, we want to get a morning game or an afternoon game. Is that okay with you? Then you're going to go to Sport Links as the next step to make your your location requests. So I don't know about you, Lillian, but I find Sport Links a little bit annoying to navigate.
It is. I use the filters a
intuitive.
lot across the top. At the top, I'll use I'll go to the season, and then I'll go to my team. I do the team name, and so it makes it a lot easier. But sometimes you want to see what the other, if you want to see fields that other teams have already. When you go in to request a field time, sometimes you want to see what field times other teams have picked, so that you don't kind of double up. If you have more, there's more chance of you getting the time that you request if you don't go in at the same time as other teams have requested. Because if somebody else has their request in as their first choice, and then you're going in as your third choice, the other team is more likely to get that field time.
Right.
But yes, so I would just go to name, where the team name is, the second column.
Right. So
if you wanted to,
it's listed by name, and you can actually search up here, and you can put in, like, because normally all the East Bay teams will be in here, not just Alameda. So I'll usually put ASC Islanders under the search and then find my team. You can click on the team website that way. You can also get, this was new in the last year, you get your own login, and then you'll have a team page. So like up here on the top banner, I can just click on my team page here, that only, I have access to that one. And this is a place where you can do your game requests as well, or you can do it from the public team website. So you can log in yourself and do it from your own team page, or go do it from the public team website. Anyone can make the game request there. So in order to do your game request, you click on that and click on new game request. And then you're going to find, let's pretend a date. I don't know. Let's actually see if this is available for booking anything. Because I'm already signed in under my team, it knows that I'm Boys U10. But if you're signed in under the public webpage, you might need to choose what division you are, because it'll give you different field choices for different size teams. So 7v7, 9v9, or 11v11.
I have a question.
yeah.
Sorry. So I definitely, this is all new to me, so I'm trying to be as helpful as possible to my team. I have the Gutsport sign in, and I'm more familiar with Gutsport, but do I need a specific ASC sign in for sports links?
You can get your own sign in. I just sent the link to Sharon, I believe. Sharon, did it work for you? Are you still
Sport
on?
Links is
Sorry, I
public, so
couldn't
you
find
can
the ID
actually,
button. Yes, it did work for me, but when I don't, my page right now, I don't think I'm in the right tab. Like, so I think I emailed you. There was 2 slots for 2011 girls, and I just picked one of them, and I don't know if what I'm seeing is the right page for our team.
Let's
And we
maybe,
can
I don't
do
know if
this
there's a way
later.
you can share your screen at the end and
I
we can look at,
can.
yeah.
I can share
Um,
screen.
So the way that you would get your own login for your own team is by clicking here under register now. So team officials registration. That will give you your own login so that you are able to see that page, your own team page. But if you go to the public team website, you should be able to do the same thing, even if you don't have a logon. You just have to enter your information. Oh, it still knows that I'm logged in. So see if
Okay.
I log out, what happens.
And you're sending us a link, you said, to this?
Yeah,
Sport
I can
Links?
send you guys a link.
Thank you.
Hold on, I'm trying to move this down so I can see. Well, I don't know if I know how to do it without logging in. So let's just go back and log in.
where were you on the first time you were in, when you first got in, where it was listing all of the teams?
I just
That's what the
go to the
public-
home. Yeah, that's the public.
Yeah,
So I always just click over here on the left quick menu. I click on season games and then it'll be blank because there aren't any yet. And then at the upper right-hand corner, you can change it to season teams right here.
yep.
So if
And
we
then
don't,
This is
see
where
everything.
everyone would be, if you had the public site, everyone would just be directed here. And then you could find your team and go to the team website from this page. But I would say that I have actually found before, because right now it's showing the ASC Islanders. So the naming convention looks right here, but I have seen where certain teams are Alameda Islanders and some teams are Alameda SC Islanders. So you kind of have to be careful to make sure that you have the right team. So in this case, that's our team right there. You're actually on my team's website. So the red team, which is what you have, Sharon and Gary, would be the one right above it.
I see it now. So I think I do see everything that Renee's, what she's showing. The only thing I don't have is that, right above ASC Islanders 13B white on the blue tab.
Yeah, you don't have that.
And I guess I don't need to have it if I went through the same process that you just showed us. Okay. So I think I got everything. Okay. So it sounds like when I logged in or created my account, it doesn't really matter if you dictate that you are part of U12 11G Red. Is that correct? Because it sounds like anybody can have access to any team site.
It's true. You can. I can go in there if I wanted to request a game for another team. I could do that through that public website. So this is the only thing when you register, like Renee did, is it will give you if you registered, it should give you a specific link like Renee has to your specific team.
It just makes it's like a few less clicks, basically.
I know, and I don't see that. That's the only thing I realize I don't have. Or maybe if I create a bookmark, I can do it.
can I just ask, when you're saying when you register, are you saying when you just create your username and password to log in? I'm still.
Yeah, and you affiliate with a team.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you don't need that. I mean, if you don't have it, you can just go through the public site and just find your team and then go through you can go through the link, of the team website link there.
I wonder if you can edit something under your login, like
Yeah, I was trying
over
to
here, to see if
No.
that would find your team. All right, I'm gonna go back and pretend like we're gonna schedule something. Game requests. New game request. Okay, and then you can you click on add your choice. And then it's giving me a list of all the 7v7 fields because that's the age range that my son plays in. But you could change the age range here if that was wrong, or if you weren't logged into your own team. And then let's choose 14. And then it'll give you different options for fields that you're able to book. The ones on the right-hand side here, there's a column, and that basically designates which teams are like affiliated with which fields. However, you could theoretically book a field that is East Bay United's, for example, like Alameda Point is one that we commonly utilize, although it's not in great shape right now. We are allowed to try to book those fields. It's just that we tend to book the ones that are that say ASC more often.
I would try to book the ASC fields first, because those are the fields that are kind of, I don't want to say belong to, but like affiliated, like Renee said, with our club. And if those are, as a third or as a second or third choice, if you chose one of the other fields because the time that you want to play is not available at one of the ASC fields, then you can go ahead. And however, priority will be given to the East Bay United team, for instance, if you decided to try to play at College of Alameda.
Yes, Heather. You're muted.
I thought I unmuted. I'm just seeing that Estuary Park is on there. Is that available now? I mean, was that the same as last year?
That's only an 11v11
Exactly.
field.
Oh,
So
so
I put an
certain
age
teams-
range of 14 right
Oh,
here.
I see. It changed. Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
Like, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, no, so sorry, younger kids.
Oh,
can't
it's
use it.
still,
I just changed it back to 9. So for the 7v7 fields,
what?
There's Challenger baseball turf.
Yeah. What is
We can
that?
book. So
What?
that's the small like baseball field that's next to the giant Estuary Park field.
And it's turf.
It's turf. We were not allowed to book it before. It's new that it's on here. So things
Okay, yeah.
changed every season, depending on how other fields are, what kind of shape they're in.
So I guess a
I
big
think
question of mine, or like, which are the most popular ones? I know that Main Street, Ruby Bridges, Alameda Point, and now Estuary, I guess. Is that kind of the main ones that we use?
Well, it depends
Anything else?
what Alameda Parks and Rec also allocates to us. There are certain fields that belong to the club. Hornet is one of them. Estuary belongs to Alameda Parks and Rec. So we have to wait a lot of times. The reason why sometimes these field allocations come out later is because we have to wait for Alameda Parks and Rec to allocate those to the club before we can, start scheduling games at those fields. The popular ones, I don't know if there is a popular one. I guess it depends on the age range. So all the fields that you named are fields that we all play on. I know Harrington opened up also this past season and they took Tillman away because there's work being done there. So it kind of depends, I think, not just on age range, quality of the field, but also field allocation from the Alameda Parks and Rec department.
I think for spring, everything is already allocated. Like, I think we should be able to book these, but the problem will come in August when we're trying to book fall because the timelines are really tight. And this past fall, a lot of us booked Alameda Point for our early games because that is not controlled by ARPD. And those were available to book, whereas the other ones weren't. So sometimes we have to flex that way. I will tell you, Alameda Point is is not good shape right now. So if you are choosing things, that might be lower on the list of choices because it's mostly dirt. Hopefully that'll change because they're working on a project to try to,
We need Bjorn out
replace
there.
everything.
Grow some grass. Get him out there. Bjorn, get some grass out there.
All right.
Right.
So let's pretend I'm going to choose Estuary Park. Ooh, well, it's probably not available on Saturdays at least, because look, there's no times here that I can select. Let me see if another one has a time slot. Let's try Main Street. So Main Street has time slots available, which is Atlantic Field. So you would click on whatever your first choice is. Let's say it's 10:20. And then that gets recorded as my option number 1. And then I can add an alternative. I could either do the same field at a different time, or I could do a different field at the same time. I recommend putting in 3 choices at least. Most of the time you'll get one of those. There was one time where we got a completely different field assigned that we had not requested at all. And sometimes that happens. And sometimes you'll get a field change if there's a problem or rain or something like that, you'll get changed to a different field.
Renee,
All
can
right.
I ask, I think you mentioned earlier that, how do you know if somebody has already requested for that spot?
So when you click on it, one of these will have another like block, like somebody already put a request in.
Okay.
It doesn't mean that they got it necessarily, but it'll say it's their first choice or somebody else's second choice. And so you'll know if there are time slots that other people are already putting requests in for.
And if
Okay.
the time slot's already taken, you'll see that as well here. It will be
It
hard
won't let you
coded and you
choose it.
won't be able to, yeah.
I see. So does that mean somebody's reviewing this like daily?
It's
No.
not daily. I think it's more, there are people reviewing it, and the longest it's taken is 3 days for someone to get back to me. And
Okay.
if you're in a rush to get, that's why we try to schedule things like when the schedule first comes out, the first 2 games are probably the most important. And then as the time goes, so the priority will be for the monitors who are allotting the fields. They will go through the first 2 weeks first, and then come back to you with the other field allocations later on. They kind of do it by priority and whatever's most important, whatever's coming up first. And yeah, I mean, the latest it's taken is 3 days for me. And they're pretty good about it. They'll get back to you, or they'll let you know. And if for any reason you don't hear back, you can certainly email them, and we'll give you that. There's a Jack London coordinator email address that you can directly email, and they'll get back to you after that.
So, and just to complete your request, you have to put in the away team. Sometimes you just have to like add them in if they're not already listed. I just put in their name, like exactly how it's populated in GotSport. You don't have to put in information about a contact or like the coach's name or anything like that. Just put in the name of the away team. And then if there's any additional comments, you can add them here. Like, for example, let's say you booked a game, but you need to move it. You cannot delete the original game request, but you'll get an assigned number for that game request, and you would type in the comments, this game request replaces, whatever X number of the prior game request was, so that they know that it's replacing that, so that they remove the other request. And then you have to click save so that it becomes an actual game request. And then they will all be listed under here. So every game request that you've made will be populated right under here. And then once it actually gets booked, it'll be listed under games. Which of course there's nothing there yet, but under games is also where you can see if you get assigned a ref, which we can go back to the slideshow in a little bit, but that is one of the things that you have to keep checking on as it gets closer and closer to the date of your game. Occasionally we'll get assigned a ref like a week in advance, and it's amazing, but often you're checking Wednesday night, Thursday night, and sometimes Friday night to see if anybody signed up for your game. And if not, you want to be sort of reaching out to any refs that you know, Maybe there's a ref on another team that you can like do a swap with if you have a ref for your team. That kind of thing happens a lot because we don't have enough refs, unfortunately. But you'll be able to see if somebody is assigned next to the game. You can also see it under the public website, which if I go back under, you would click on season games and there would be a whole list of games. And then off to the right under this referee column here, you would see if there was a name assigned or not. That's the second way to look. Okay, so let's go back to Gotsport. Let's say you did get a field assignment. In order to make it known and published on Gotsport to the other team, you're going to click on this team scheduling tab up here at the top. And I guess it's going to look at state.
Renee, do they send you an email to confirm? I can't remember how they send an email. Okay,
you get an email. When you have game dates assigned on this little mini calendar on the right here, on the date, it'll say 1 of 1 or something like that, right, Lillian? Or 2 of 2,
yep.
If you have 2 games that day.
It will designate, yes. I think it's typically 1, but yeah, if you have 2 games.
Here we go.
Yep.
Here's an example. So this is State Cup last fall. So you would click on the date that has that number there. See if it's going to do it. Oh, you have to click on the actual number of the date, not the 1. If the match has not been scheduled yet, it'll be at the bottom under unassigned matches. And I usually try to do this on a desktop because it's impossible to do on like a tablet when the names of all these fields are so long and you want to be really careful picking the right one because
you can actually go to hit on fields or I'm sorry, filters up at the top in the middle, and you can filter team name, field name, all of that. And I always filter the field name because
that's a good tip. I never did that before.
So that
it only shows the one you're looking for. Okay.
Correct.
Let's just pretend we're going to AP3 and then search. And the other thing I change here is the increment. I change it to 10 minutes usually because the game times are like 10:20, 10:40, things like that. So then, okay, now we know we have the right field here. You would drag your match up to the correct time. And then you can see that on this particular date, there were, all these games back to back. If somebody is already in that time slot, usually it's an error, if you got assigned that time. And so that happened to me one time. I think I accidentally dropped it into the wrong field. And then I got an email like, hey, we're trying to schedule that. So you can contact us or Chris Lonsdale, and we can figure out how to put the teams in contact so that you remove yourself from that spot if it's not your assigned slot. Once you actually put it there, sorry, go ahead, Lily.
No, I was gonna say, that happened to me once before also, and I had to contact the other team directly and have them remove their time slot. They had inadvertently put it in the wrong. I wonder if it was your team. That's weird.
It might have been.
Yeah, I think it was.
Yeah.
So then they had to remove their time slot so that I could put mine in, and then and then they corrected on their side.
Yeah. Once you actually drag it and drop it, then when you go back to team management and matches, then you'll see the time and the location will populate. And then I message the other team and say, hey, look, we're confirmed this time, this location. Keep in mind, I think there was a glitch sometime in the fall where it was putting things in under a different time zone. So it should automatically be Pacific Daylight or Pacific Standard, but there was one team that was having things happen in like Eastern or something. So just double check that to make sure it's the right time zone.
Yeah, I think that happened to a few teams actually.
All right, questions about Gotsport before I go back to the slide deck. Oh, let's look at under teams. things that you can do under your team. So when I click on my team, I can see the players, the list of players. You can see the coaches, you can see me as the manager. You can click on rosters, and that's where you can print some of these. So if you wanted to print your US Club Soccer pass cards, you just select that and search. And then I go to documents and IDs, and then you can print the roster PDF, and that's just like, you know, a couple of pages, or you can print it in like ID card form where you could theoretically cut it out if you wanted to. Let's say your player, I don't know, went off and played with another team and they didn't bring back their card in enough time, you could theoretically print it off of here. You should get laminated versions from Yenchi, although they should already be made up for most of your teams if they're all the same players from the fall. What else can we do in here that's helpful? You can see what events you're registered for. Is there anything else you do under here, Lillian?
Nope, that's the gist
One of the
it.
things that I do is I put in, let's see, I think I go to the NorCal list and then I put in people's jersey numbers so that it populates on their, on the match card. So you could go ahead and do that if you wanted to. You don't have to. All right, I think that's most of Gotsport, unless you guys have any other questions before we move on. It's a lot, I know. Okay. Let's try to go back to the other here. Okay, we already sort of went through this. Let's just see if there's anything else on here that we missed. So Jack London Youth Soccer Sports League comprises 5 other clubs. The ones that you saw, so East Bay United,
Montclair,
Piedmont, Montclair. What's the other one? Oakland? It said OSC.
Oakland Soccer Club.
Yeah. And yeah, so Heather, here's where it says, once scheduled, you should receive an email, and also can find it on your public page or by searching the League of Play. And then we went through this. Scheduling is a little bit more complicated if you have professional coaches who have other teams. So in this slide deck, there's a link to an example spreadsheet about how you might coordinate with other teams and other managers to make sure that you guys aren't all requesting the same game times for, you know, the coaches, maybe 3 teams. So that would be pretty helpful if you happen to have a professional coach. And I'll send out this slide deck after we're done. Chat is super important. We did this, your home game field request, you get back your email, and then you update in Gotsport. And then the last thing is then you're going to put the information in TeamSnap so that your own team can see it, because they're not logging on to Gotsport or any of those things. Referees. So each team is required to have a ref affiliated, which is a challenging process. We're always needing more refs. We're always trying to encourage people to do the training. If you have any, if you know any like older sibling teenagers who, you know, would be interested in reffing, I think that's great for them to get into and get experience and get a little bit of pay that way, and just add to the pool. It's always helpful to sort of make a list of people that you know that can ref and that you can reach out to if you don't get anybody assigned to your game. And the amount of ref game credits required per season varies by age level, as you can see. I believe you can have more than 1 ref assigned to your team, but each time your ref affiliated with your team, you know, completes a game, that counts as a credit. So you could have 1 person that does like 6 games, or you can have several people each that do a couple. and just make sure that they're affiliated with your team so you get credit. And this just talks about sort of the process. It says you should start calling Thursday night. I don't think anybody really wants to be called. Maybe emailed or something would be okay to contact people. But yeah, as it says, it's good to keep a list of contacts that you know the ref. If you don't bring a ref, the other team can protest the score and, you know, potentially make you forfeit. You could have a backup parent ref who, I mean, it's sort of not ideal to have a parent on your team be the ref, but that's happened a few times where, you know, somebody didn't show up. Like sometimes you'll be assigned a ref and maybe they don't happen to come. And then you can ask a parent to be backup ref. And usually the other team is okay about it. Although theoretically they could protest if they're like super competitive, but hopefully they wouldn't because we all just want our kids to play.
It is nice to have your own little network of refs. So you kind of trade, you know, you do it. Can you help me out this week? We'll help you out next week. It's always nice to have a couple of parents on your team. And then, you know, I've had to ask, it's not ideal to have a parent ref on your own team, as Renee mentioned, to ref the game. However, and what we will usually do is just, you know, if it comes down to it and there's no one else, you know, do you care? We'll actually ask the other team if it's okay with them, or if they have someone on their team that, for line refs, that's usually not a problem. But with the center refs, sometimes they'll have an issue, and you know, and I hear that as you get into older, as you get into the older divisions, they're less likely to be as amiable to just having a parent kind of ref the game.
I think also the younger ages and the rec teams have a harder time getting refs because the older ages pay more money, they're longer games, and so people sort of preferentially sign up for those. So hopefully that's not quite as much of a problem in older ages, but seems to be for youngers. And the pandemic definitely affected this. Like we used to have a lot more refs, and then since the pandemic, it seems to have gone down.
I think between the pandemic and abuse,
Yeah.
people,
Yeah.
a lot of the refs have just decided not to do it.
Which is why it was highlighted in the newsletter. Don't yell at the refs. We need them.
Yes.
Okay. So on game day, you want to make sure you have your US club passes, your medical release forms, your game card that you've printed out from GotSport. The home team is responsible for bringing 3 game balls. After the game, as the home team, you report the game score in GotSport. And if there was some sort of incident, a red carded player, or, you know, people get in a fight, like this all needs to be reported. And if it's not reported, we can get in trouble as a club and go on probation and things like that. So make sure that those procedures are followed. And if you don't know the procedure as a manager, which I don't necessarily, the coach should, and the ref should. Okay. Other logistics. Uniforms. Hopefully that's not an issue at this point in the spring. We are getting new uniforms in June, I believe, for the next 2 years. And there will be emails sent out over the summer encouraging people to go and get their new uniforms in enough time before the fall season. I don't know what about the practice shirts and pennies or the coach's attire. I believe that ASC has provided some of these in the past, but I'm not quite sure about currently for spring. Do you, Lillian?
No, I don't. Okay. I think the coaches know what they can and cannot wear.
But for ASC branded things.
Exactly. And then practice shirts and pennies, I think, well, at least for the older teams, they want the players to have jerseys for practices as well. Whereas the younger kids can, you know, come in their rainbow shirt or their, you know, My Little Pony or whatever. I think they want everything to be a little bit more standard for the older kids. And I know that Danny has actually mentioned that she wants the whole club to have practice shirts. So that might be something that might be coming with the new director of coaching. So we'll see.
Okay, stay tuned. There's always questions about whether games are going to get rained out for rain or for air quality. Those type of decisions usually come down like the morning of, based on, you know, exactly what happened with the weather. Jack London usually then communicates to the club, and then the club will send out an email to everybody with that information. So we don't always know in advance until the day of.
And then for practices, as we saw today, we can find out up until 3 p.m. the day of.
Right.
And so do we get it? We wouldn't get like an email. Where do we go to check if a game is rained out? When can we do that? Like,
You can go to the Jack London website directly, and it will give you that information on that web page.
They used to have a phone number, but I called it and it doesn't work anymore.
Of course.
I'm just going to say something because I'm the rec coordinator. So Alameda Soccer Club has gotten really good about letting everybody know day of that the fields are closed if it's rainy. Usually ARPD posts like a message by 2 p.m. on their Twitter feed. It's like the ARPD weather Twitter thing or whatever. But we've gotten really good about, you know, waiting for that to come through and then sending a notice right away. And it'll come either from the DOC or sometimes Scott McCaskill sends it. But we're, you know, we've been pretty on top of it, especially this past fall season. So yeah,
a lot more rain.
Yeah, and that number doesn't work, and London doesn't really update their website regularly. So it's best to just, like 2 p.m. the message will come through, and but it's the early Saturday morning, Sunday games that might be problematic. Turf games you have to show up to. The center ref will cancel day of if it's too rainy. But grass fields will be closed by ARPD, and we get that notice out. So that's basically how it's done.
But if you don't get a notice, it's best to show up, because otherwise you're gonna, and let the ref decide, or because you will forfeit your game. You will forfeit your game if it's not officially canceled or if it's not officially rained out.
All right. In the fall, teams will be allocated stipends, so that's not happening right now for spring. Stipends can be used for equipment, although ASC has a lot of equipment, so you can always ask first if there's something you need before you purchase it. I think we'll hear more about volunteers and sponsors coming from the club soon, so stay tuned. As well as coaching resources. Team fun. I think that's it. Let me see if there's another slide. No, I think that's it.
Yep.
All right. Any other questions? Was that enough information?
Hey, I just to clarify. So what do we start with now? We first go to Sport Links and see if a field is available. If you want to schedule a game, what's the first step?
The first thing, the way that I would look at this is Got Sport is where you would look for your game schedule. That's where you communicate with the other teams. Once you know your game calendar, you go into Sport Links, which is the second step, to request a field. Once you have a field request and it's been approved, then you have to go back into Got Sport to communicate with the other team and to put into team scheduling where the match is going to be held and at what time. And then last step is to tell your team, once everything is in Got Sport and you've been confirmed in Sport Links, to go into Team Snap and communicate with your team. So Godsport is how you communicate with other teams outside.
Yeah.
Sport Links is where you go for field allocation. And then Team Snap is how you communicate with your own team. I don't know if that clarifies anything for you.
I think so, Lillian, but I may just ask you later on again.
Okay, no, please.
I wasn't
Absolutely.
sure how
You
to
can,
populate that first. I mean, the first game. I just make
oh yeah,
a
for
date and
sure.
then
We're
No,
totally
no,
here.
we can't do it yet.
we can't do it yet. No, okay,
Yeah,
okay.
not, yeah,
Because I
it's
was
not ready
trying and I was
yet.
like, why can't I?
Oh no, it's not ready yet. That's why you can't do it right now.
Yeah.
So when will it be ready? When you get an email and then it's populating automatically, or how does that work?
Well, usually the club will send something out. Either Chris Lonsdale or someone from the team will send something out system wide to the entire club and say, you know, it's ready. You can start putting your teams in. Like today, we got an email from Chris telling us to double check our, you know, our divisions with NorCal. So the next, as we go, they'll kind of remind us, but you can also just go in and NorCal actually will send out emails as well. So right now they have to confirm the divisions. They're giving us a few days to get back to them to make the corrections. And once those are in, then it'll take a few days after that for them to actually release the schedule. Because you have to make sure everyone is in the right division first. And then once that's confirmed, then you know, they'll do whatever they need to do to publish a schedule for all of the teams. And then it's up to the teams then to talk to each other about scheduling field time and games and things like that.
Okay.
I would imagine it would be Wednesday, Thursday. I don't know. I usually just look in Godsport every day around the time when I expect things to be coming out, just to see.
And they did push everything back a week too. Originally, it was games were supposed to start on the 4th, this coming weekend actually. And because of the whatever snafu they had with Godsport, they pushed it back a week. So now the first games are going to take place on March 11th.
Okay,
So
thank you.
this I'll send out this slide deck. This web page or this slide is all the information you need for that, step by step.
Yes, and if anybody needs any help on a personal level, whatever, just email us. We're happy to assist in any way. It is a lot to take in. It took me 3 seasons to figure this out properly.
Yeah.
And I'm still not sure I have it all straight. So it's a lot.
It is a lot, but it gets easier once you start doing it, because right now it's
Right.
sort of like, what do I click on?
You guys are awesome. Thank you so much for doing this. You guys are amazing. Renee, you know I like to call you like every day.
Anytime.
Renee.
Well, thank you.
Very good. Yeah,
Yeah,
thank
thank you
you.
both. Appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
So much.
Thanks so much.
Good
Have a
luck.
good night.
Bye.
Bye.
Good luck, everybody.
luck.
Mm.
All right, Sharon logged off, so I guess maybe we
Yeah.
answered that question.
Great.
Let me see if I can stop recording.
Thanks for doing that. That was great.